Greetings! On behalf of the Florida Park Service, we welcome you to Alfred B. McClay Gardens State Park. Thank you for joining us on our QR code tour of the gardens. We have 11 stops throughout the gardens. Please take your time strolling through the gardens and enjoy this tour at your own pace. We begin our tour on the Visitor Center lawn, possibly relaxing in the chairs of the pavilion or standing at the antique wrought iron gate supported by large brick pillars and flanked by Mediterranean fan palms and native dwarf Walter's viburnum bushes. Let's begin with a bit of history about the gardens and the man who developed them. Alfred Barmore McClay was a wealthy banker and financier from New York. He visited this area with his wife, Louise Fleischman McClay, in 1923, and they were so impressed by the huge oaks and pines, beautiful dogwoods and hollies, they decided this would be their winter home and the place for Alfred to fulfill his lifelong dream of creating a beautiful garden. He named it Killearn Gardens, after the Scottish birthplace of his father's ancestors. Mr. McClay had many interests besides gardening. He founded the American Horse Show Association and served as president for 10 years, as well as serving on the show committee of the National Horse Show for 30 years. He raised and showed champion fine harness horses and also raised show dogs, notably the Dandy Dinmont Terrier and the Dalmatian. He was asked to judge Best in Show at the prestigious Westminster Dog Show. His love of animals eventually led to his service as vice president and longtime board member of the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the ASPCA. He had famous collections of early American furniture and glass. He also traveled extensively, both in this country and abroad, and brought back plants from his travels. In designing the gardens, Mr. McClay wanted to demonstrate that native and exotic plants could be used together to create a setting of scenic beauty. The gardens were designed to be in bloom during the winter and early spring, the time of year the family would have been in residence. Mr. McClay, although self-taught, was a master of the art of landscape design, and he planned this garden around good bones of trees and shrubs so that it would be a place of beauty year-round. Many modern gardens are quite different from McClay Gardens. Other gardens are considered floral show gardens, where displays of flowers are changed several times a year and fantastic scenes are contrived flowers. Such gardens are intended to excite the senses. McClay Gardens, on the other hand, is meant to soothe the senses and be a place of peace and serenity. It is intended to work with nature rather than to manipulate nature. As we walk through the gardens, note the contrasting shades and textures of the foliage. In the summertime, the subtle use of various colors and textures create a cooling green-on-green effect that is a refreshing break from the noise and bustle and brightness of the outside world. Mr. McClay worked on the gardens until his death in 1944, but they were mostly complete by that time. Mrs. McClay continued according to his plan, along with the help of Fred Farrell, who worked here for 46 years as head gardener and later as park superintendent. In 1953, Mrs. McClay donated the gardens to the state of Florida to be a state park. We worked to maintain the gardens as much as possible, just as it was before 1953. Mrs. McClay continued to be actively involved in the day-to-day operations of the gardens until her death in 1973. Under her direction, the name of the gardens was changed in 1965 to honor the man who made them. Let's walk through the iron gates and stop at Station 2, where the walk opens toward the right. As you enter the gate, notice that in the smaller brick walk circling back toward the left is a time capsule that was buried in 1995 on the 60th anniversary of the Florida State Park System. It will be opened on the 100th anniversary in 2035.